For decades, fans of the Planet of the Apes franchise have debated how to reconcile the seemingly disparate backstories of the original films with those of the modern reboots. On one side, the original movies hint at an apocalypse sparked by nuclear war and a mysterious virus that wiped out domestic animals like cats and dogs. On the other, the reboot trilogy, from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, 2011, through War for the Planet of the Apes, 2017, centers on a viral outbreak engineered to cure disease that instead decimates humanity while dramatically enhancing ape intelligence. At first glance, these stories seem irreconcilable, but a closer examination reveals that every installment can be connected into one continuous, though complex, timeline. The following narrative explores this unified theory, weaving together director insights, key plot elements, and thematic clues that hint at one grand, epic saga. It all begins with the Divergent origins. The original 1968 film famously concludes with a shocking twist. An astronaut, marooned on a ruined Earth, discovers the remnants of civilization in the wreckage of New York City, where iconic structures like the Statue of Liberty rise half buried in the sand. In that dystopian world, humanity has regressed into a primitive state following either a nuclear catastrophe or a mysterious virus that wiped out beloved pets. In contrast, the modern reboots open with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where a scientific experiment meant to cure Alzheimer's goes horribly wrong. Instead of igniting a nuclear holocaust, a viral outbreak sweeps across the globe, decimating most of humanity and simultaneously enhancing the cognitive abilities of apes. War for the Planet of the Apes even shows this virus mutating further, with surviving humans gradually regressing into a more primitive, mute state, a key idea that provides a rational explanation for the caveman-like humans in the original films. Matt Reeves has commented that while the original's nuclear setting was a reflection of Cold War anxieties, the reboot's biological catastrophe speaks more directly to modern concerns. He has stressed that the downfall of human civilization was never intended to hinge on one isolated event, but was instead the gradual collapse of society under a shifting and mutating threat. The reboot trilogy forms the factual foundation of our unified timeline. In Rise, we witness the birth of Caesar, a chimpanzee whose intelligence is skyrocketed by an experimental drug. Caesar's journey is not merely about one ape's ascent. It signifies the beginning of a new order and the first seeds of human decline. A decade later, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes catches up with Caesar as he leads a burgeoning community of apes near San Francisco. Tensions rise between these intelligent primates and the scattered remnants of humanity, struggling to survive amidst dwindling resources. Reeves' portrayal of this fragile balance between peace and conflict serves as a prelude to the overwhelming chaos to come. In War for the Planet of the Apes, the mutated virus causes even more catastrophic consequences. Here, regional conflicts erupt as isolated military factions and human survivors engage in brutal battles, their miscommunications and fears culminating in violence that reverberates across the globe. Reeves has emphasized that the chaotic battle in war is but one instance of a much larger worldwide collapse, a collapse that would eventually lay the groundwork for the ancient mythic world portrayed in the original films. Directors and producers have repeatedly hinted at these connections. Matt Reeves, who helmed Dawn and War, has stressed the importance of legacy and the inevitable distortion of history over time. He has described the miscommunications and fragmented recollections in War as a natural outcome of a society in collapse. Similarly, Westball has made it clear that Kingdom is intended not as a reboot, but as a continuation of Caesar's legacy, an exploration of how the original truths become mythologized over centuries. Producers like Peter Chernin have also suggested that the filmmaker's ultimate vision is an epic saga spanning millennia, where the scientifically detailed events of the reboots evolve into the legendary past that forms the backdrop of the original films. When we consider the entire saga as a whole, the apparent contradictions between the original films and the modern reboots begin to dissolve. The modern era's viral apocalypse depicted in Rise, Dawn, and War serves as the factual foundation for an epic story. As centuries pass, these events are gradually transformed through the imperfect lens of oral tradition into the mythic history seen in the original 1968 film and its sequels. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, set 300 years after the events of war, stands as the crucial bridge between these two eras. In Kingdom, we see an evolved ape society grappling with a distorted legacy. A legacy where the true account of Caesar's uprising has been reshaped with each retelling, much like a whispered message that naturally changes over time. The concept of history here is not static. It is an ever-evolving narrative. Time travel, retcons, and the inherent imperfection of memory ensure that the truth of the viral catastrophe is continuously blurred. What begins as a scientifically grounded account of an apocalyptic event eventually becomes a layered, mythic tapestry. This comprehensive theory suggests that every film in the franchise, from the reboots to the original classics, is part of one grand, interconnected timeline, an epic saga of evolution, memory, and the cyclical nature of history. In conclusion, the unified timeline theory can be understood as follows. The modern reboots provide a detailed scientific origin for the ape uprising, a foundation that, over 2,000 years, is transformed by oral tradition and the distortions of memory. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, set centuries later, shows a mature ape society struggling with a legacy that has been subtly altered in every retelling. Add to this the complexities introduced by time travel and retconning, and what we have is a dynamic, fluid narrative where the truth is less important than the myth that endures. Far from being a series of contradictory stories, the entire franchise forms one unified epic, a saga where the rise of the apes is not an isolated incident, but the inevitable result of a world in perpetual transformation. This comprehensive view deepens our appreciation for the themes at the heart of Planet of the Apes: the fragility of civilization, the power of memory and myth, and the ever-changing nature of history itself. Every retelling, every reinterpretation, and every twist in time contributes to the grand narrative, ensuring that the legacy of Caesar and the ultimate rise of the apes remains a timeless, compelling epic. Following the reboot era, the global catastrophe set in motion during war ripples across the planet. One can imagine that similar battles erupted in other major cities, not just in California, but in metropolises like New York, where entire cities might have been bombed into ruin. The virus's mutation, which renders many humans mute and primitive, combined with regional warfare, explains the fragmented remnants of civilization. As time marches on, the true details of this apocalypse are gradually lost. The factual account of a viral outbreak that reshaped the world is slowly transformed through generations of oral tradition and fragmentary records until it is eventually obscured by legend. This process of mythologizing history helps bridge the gap between the scientifically grounded narrative of the reboots and the ambiguous, almost mystical past of the original films. The passage of centuries plays a pivotal role in this transformation. The true story of how a virus unleashed in the modern era triggered the collapse of civilization and the rise of intelligent apes becomes distorted as it is passed down from generation to generation. Details are forgotten, altered, and reinterpreted until what remains is a legendary saga that seems to defy logic. The existence of isolated human survivors, such as those depicted in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, reinforces the idea that not every human was lost to the virus. Instead, pockets of humanity managed to persist, preserving fragments of their former intelligence, even as the majority regressed into a primitive state. The core message of apes together strong has been altered in subtle ways. Some clans remain loyal to the true ideals of Caesar, while others, led by figures like Proximus, have manipulated these teachings to justify their pursuit of power. Director Wes Ball has emphasized that Kingdom is set during a dark age of ape civilization, a time when the clear scientific truth of the past has been obscured by myth and reinterpretation. The remnants of old human technology and isolated groups of surviving humans provide tangible links to that lost era, even as the historical record is now a tapestry of legend and distorted memory. Adding to this complexity is the element of time travel featured in Escape from the Planet of the Apes, where Zira and Cornelius journey back to the 1970s. Their actions introduce a layer of retroactive causality that ensures the historical record remains perpetually malleable. History in this universe is fluid, its details reshaped by oral tradition, myth, and the subtle alterations introduced by time travel. As director Reeves once noted, when you're dealing with a story that spans millennia, details will inevitably be lost, twisted, and retold until they're almost unrecognizable. Such insights reinforce the idea that what we remember as the Apes' history is less a fixed record than a continuously evolving legend, one in which the truth of the reboot era is gradually subsumed by myth.